You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to another rockin' awesome Saturday night. Well, here it is, December 3rd, 2022. The Watchtower is still with us. It's really amazing they're hanging on this long, but we're going to be talking about some things tonight on our news. I think it's very important you stay with us because you're going to hear some things tonight that is really going to get you thinking. So that's coming up here very, very shortly. So stay in with us. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome in once again to our program here on Saturday night, JW World News. Well, this is the program really that started it all, going on 17 years ago. And you say, well, how did it all start? Well, it all started from just a telephone. And that's what we did 16 years ago. In January, it'll be 17 years. And we're here every Saturday night. And it has just been like a big snowball rolling down the hill. More and more people are coming in every weekend because they want to know what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, anyways, my name's Rick Farron, and I am coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. And I appreciate you coming in tonight. And like I said earlier, more and more people are coming in. And, we want you to speak up. That's what really makes the program very exciting. When we have new ones call in and speak up and tell us what's going on with them and their trek out of the Watchtower, we love to hear that. So by all means, muster up the courage tonight. Muster up the courage and come on in and say hello to us. If you're listening in on YouTube, I'm going to put a telephone number up. Let me do that right now. So if you want to call into the program, there's the number right there. If you're listening in on other platforms, and you want to dial into the telephone line and give yourself a voice, you want to call 727-731-6701. 727-731-6701. No pin needed. That will get you in. Now, if you're in a foreign country and you're in the UK or you're in India or Nigeria, go to the Six Screens of the Watchtower website, sixscreensofthewatchtower.com. Right there on the front page, there's a whole lot of access numbers you can call free from just about anywhere in the world. So if you'd like to come in, the access numbers, the numbers to call for the country you're calling from are right there on the front page of our website. So give that a shot. Well, let's get into the news here right away. Maricopa County. Well, I'm not going to get into politics here tonight with you, right? You're probably thinking, what's Rick going to talk about? Is he talking about Kerry Lake losing the election? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about much of anything in Maricopa County tonight. We focus on Jehovah's Witnesses, so I'm going to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses in Maricopa County. Well, you say, well, where is Maricopa County? Well, first of all, it's the largest county in Arizona. It has, I believe, over 3 million people. Might even be a little more than that. Might be more than that. I'm not sure. But anyways, the reason I'm bringing it up tonight because it caught my attention that, we're seeing all of these immigrant people, hundreds of thousands, even in the millions over the last year or so, that are crossing the Mexican border and coming into America, many of them coming in through Maricopa County. Well, the reason this got my attention is the Jehovah's Witnesses are proposing to build a huge Kingdom Hall in Maricopa County, actually in a town called Maricopa, which is in the county. Now, a 3,225 square foot building, that's a good sized Kingdom Hall. And that Kingdom Hall is going to actually have 4 congregations meeting. That's what I'm reading here, according to the newspaper. It's going to be an auditorium, a meeting room, a multi-purpose room. Well, that'll be the back room where you get disfellowshipped, right? So there'll be a multi-purpose room. Just call it just fellowshipping. Just call it you're a dead duck room. And also there's going to be 54 parking spaces. Not that that's important, but what I'm thinking here is more important than anything. I haven't reported in the last 3 or 4 years here on Six Screens JW World News, I have not reported one single Kingdom Hall being built that I know of in the last few years. But all of a sudden, the Watchtower is building one right there in Maricopa County. Well, what is that all about? Now, I'm just thinking out loud. Don't take it to the bank and cash it, as I say. But my mind runs in different directions here, as yours does as well, because you're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. So you have all of these immigrants coming across the border. And, what better group of people to recruit into a cult than an immigrant? Really, I'm not picking on the immigrants here. I'm just telling you. I mean, they're coming in. They want to meet new friends. The Jehovah's Witnesses greet them. And, oh, hey, why don't you come to the meeting? And, they're going to love bomb them. I'm thinking immigrants are a great type of a person, an immigrant person, to be able to bring into a cult. I mean, they would fall head over heels for this. So here we have the Kingdom Hall. You're going to have 4 congregations, a huge Kingdom Hall. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe you're thinking something else. But why is it that I don't see Kingdom Halls being built anywhere around America, anywhere around the world? But then I get this newspaper article flashed to me, Maricopa County, a 4 congregation Kingdom Hall. Unbelievable. So that's just my thoughts. And don't you think that too? And the reason this got me thinking is, about a year ago when the Russian war started, we talked about the war, the war with Ukraine. And we talked quite extensively about that. So when Russia was moving the troops in, we know that the Ukrainian people, many of them, they had to get up and get out of there. They left all the men there to stay and fight. But they sent the women and the children, they put them in buses and trains, and they sent them to Poland for the most part. Now, right over the Ukraine-Poland line, there were numerous Jehovah's Witnesses with large signs. Are you a Jehovah's Witness? Come talk to us and what have you. So they were there greeting people. And I'm sure they were there trying to find Jehovah's Witnesses coming out of Ukraine, but also, hoping to probably find some new recruits. Oh, aren't they nice, the Jehovah's Witnesses? There they are. They're right there. They're here to help us. Well, so I'm thinking the same thing here in Maricopa County. I'm thinking the same thing that, they're there. I'm sure there's, I haven't seen it. I don't have pictures of it, but I've been told about it, that the witnesses are down by the border with signs welcoming the immigrants in. I haven't seen it, so I can't say for sure. But anyways, the Watchtower is desperate. We're going to mention that phrase tonight a lot. The Watchtower is desperate. They're doing everything they can. They got to get as many new recruits as they possibly can. And I mean, what better person than an immigrant? Now, you guys, I want you to think. I'm a born-in witness, third generation witness. But let's just think about you who became a witness that wasn't born in. For the most part, something attracted you to this organization. I don't know what it was, but maybe you were at a point in your life where things weren't going that good. Maybe you just got divorced. Maybe you didn't have any friends and you needed some friends. Maybe you were just having a hard time in life in general. And a recruit, you lost a loved one, maybe a mate or a child. And the witness, the witness cult knocks on your door, and they recruit you into their arrangement. They try to get people to come in when people are at their most vulnerable. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying all these immigrants coming in are poor and distressed people. Some of them look pretty good. Some of them are wearing, expensive jeans and, and sneakers. So they're not all destitute, but the poor, stricken ones, they'll fall for the witnesses head over heels. So I want to bring that up tonight. I wanted to make that the story. It's not the top story, but I found it very fascinating. And what it shows me is the Watchtower is doing everything they can to bring more people in. And I've said this a million times on this program in the last 16 years. You have to show signs of growth. And even though I know they're cooking the books, I know they're fudging the numbers, they've got to make it look like, boy, something's happening. So they're going to put an all-out effort to get anybody and everybody to try to get connected with this organization. So it makes those that are still in spending time in field service, whether it be writing notes, whether it be going door to door, whether it be handling those carts. They don't want to think that, nobody's coming in. What's the use? No, 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 no. You got to make it look like things are happening. And that's what the witnesses are doing. So you get this big, look at the big Kingdom Hall. This is wonderful. But also, friends, I also heard, and I can't say it for sure, but through the grapevine, that they sold another Kingdom Hall off down there. So, they're going to make the money on that one, but make a bigger one now, make room for the immigrants. All right, so we'll stop on that story tonight, unless anyone wants to say something about it. If you'd like to say something about that story, well, now would be the time to do it. Hit *6 if you want. If not, we'll just move to the next story. All right. No takers on that one. That's okay. That's all right. We maybe you just want to listen in here tonight. We got a lot of news stories to talk about. We're going to have a good time tonight. I want you to stay with us. We're going to have a real good time here tonight, friends. I'm telling you. We're going to have some good programming. We're going to have some new ones calling in tonight. Some new ones have already called in the program before me. Okay, I'm going to scroll, so I'm going to keep this story for a little later because I do have a guest coming in from New York. So I'll save that story for the guest coming in. But I just want to talk about something that got my attention that I think is very good to bring up here tonight on the 6 screens. And you guys like to... You're all apostates for the most part. I know we have some active Jehovah's Witnesses that listen into the program, but I want to tell you, this 6 screens is like a clearinghouse for Jehovah's Witness news. I get messages all day long, whether it's an email, people calling me, people writing me on Messenger, and they're giving me news articles. It's like a clearinghouse. And I want to thank everyone for doing that, because what it does is it gives me something to talk about on Saturday night. So I thank everyone for calling in and sending me and emailing me news in the Watchtower. Does someone want to say something? Go ahead. You run with us.
Yes, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. I used to be a part of a Jehovah's Witness language group.
You were?
Yes. I learned Nepali and Punjabi, because these were the immigrant groups coming into the United States.
Wow.
And they pushed it real hard. And it was the Nepali language that woke me up.
So what did the language say that English didn't that woke you up?
Because when you translate the Nepali information, it's a lot different from English, from the literature in the Watchtower.
So what would be the line or the event or the reason that woke you up? What did you see in the Nepali version?
Because I was trying so hard to learn the Nepali that the indoctrination it wore off of me. Okay, because I was doing this 24/7. I had Nepali Bible studies. I even brought one in the truth. I hate that word, but the thing is, it woke me up.
No, I never heard. I mean, forgive me for my ignorance here, but I never heard of the language Nepali. Are there Nepali-speaking people here in America?
Yes, it is. There's a big community from Boston all the way down to Georgia.
Wow. Now, what country are these Nepali people from?
Nepal.
Oh, no, Nepal.
Outside of
Oh, okay.
India.
I mean, okay. Knock on my head. Nepal. Okay. I didn't realize they were coming in from Nepal. That's interesting. Yeah. So now you're out. I mean, how long you been out?
Since 2016. I woke up because I wanted to be a ministerial servant. They told me that I didn't have enough hours in the ministry, even though I was a photographer I was a photographer for the Watchtower organization. Also did installation for sound system. I worked in I did the media at the Kingdom Hall and also did the literature.
Well, no doubt you were being used by them, but you woke up and you said, that's it. Where's the exit door? I'm leaving, brother. So my goodness, I'm so glad that happened. Now, I believe you're new calling in here. Have you called him before?
No, I am new. And the greatest thing about it, I am a hard fader. I live next door to the coordinating elder of my congregation.
Well, that must be kind of hard.
It is. But you know, he knows he had no control over me no more, and he can't stand it. He even called the police on me over bird feeders.
Did the police tell you to take him down?
No, the police was upset with him because it was trivial.
It was too trivial. Right, you can call the police fee when someone's getting robbed or raped or murdered, but because someone has a bird feeder?
Yeah, because
Jeez.
he no longer had the control over me. He had to do something to control me.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Now, can we give you a name here? So what can we call you?
Okay, I'm gonna on Twitter. I'm the man of lawlessness.
The man of lawlessness. All right, we'll refer to you as the man of lawlessness. Well, thank you, the man of lawlessness, for checking in and chiming in tonight. And I just want to ask you a question. So you chimed in on this story about the immigrants. So you learn the Nepali language. And so too, that these immigrants coming in. Now, many of them, of course, they're coming in from all over the world, I guess. So there's going to be a lot of different languages. So are you in my same camp? You think the witnesses are going to take advantage of it?
No, because they can't. Because other religions like the Catholics, Protestants, and the Baptists are helping these people financially and everything else. The witnesses not. Because I witnessed that one time we had a Nepali meeting, and the individuals were expecting something after the meeting, and they didn't get it. Other churches are they're giving education, they're helping with housing, they're helping with clothing and food. The witnesses are not doing that, so they're trailing off.
All right, so I'm sure a lot of these immigrants could use a few extra bucks. So you're right; they might not get totally attractive, but I'm sure the witnesses will snudge you. We'll actually we'll get a few coming in. I'm sure. Yeah. Well, thank you.
No. Hey.
Yeah.
Out of the Toni Morrison has spoke up about suspending the system, suspending the foreign language groups because they're not bringing people in. I mean, only brought one person in out of 3,000 people in my city who are Nepali.
Yeah, no, we did talk about that, and one of the reasons that was cited, and I heard that Morris talk, and one of the reasons was that rather than look at all the time and effort, man of lawlessness, you had to put in to be able to learn that language and all that time. So what the Watchtower was saying is, let's just find people that speak that language and are Jehovah's Witnesses and use them. So that's the position the Watchtower is taking on this. Yes. Well,
okay. Hey, so I appreciate what you've done, what you have been doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you calling in. Yeah. You made my night tonight, man of lawlessness. Great name, by the way, too. I like that name. Yes. Thank you.
you.
Thank you. All right, that's Man of Lawlessness. Come back now. Don't be a stranger. Come back and see us.
I won't.
All right, let's see how else is going on here. So we've got, I know you guys like to hear it. I love to hear it. Oh, do I love to hear that Kingdom Halls are tanking? Do I love to hear that the congregations are dwindling because of old age? Hey, I'm getting up there in years myself. And, I used to run off to the meetings like crazy. And I don't know if I could do it as much as I did then. But, a lot of the older ones aren't showing up. They want to go on Zoom. But the only thing that is going on right now in the Watchtower, from reports coming in here to the 6 screens, the only ones that seem to be attending the meetings is on Zoom, and even going to the in-person Kingdom Hall meetings. It seems to be older people. And so one man gave me some information this week that I want to share with you. He says that he's been out for a little bit now, but 8 or 10 years ago, when he was going to the Kingdom Hall, there were 12 English congregations in the city. 12. Now, just imagine, that some of these cities around America, at least, they have numerous Kingdom Halls in one city. So he was saying where he lived, there was 12 English-speaking congregations in the city. He says now there are only 6. He says the congregation that he grew up in, it has only 2 elders left. There was 4 others. They've all died in the last 10 years. So a lot of the elders are old too. They're dying off, and there's absolutely 0 younger brothers in the queue to take over. There's nothing coming down the pipeline. So now they're getting very, very nervous. They're doing everything they can to try to maintain a congregation meeting because there's no elders anymore. So now what this man told me is they're shipping elders in from other congregations to just kind of help out because they don't have enough elders. So this is a big problem right now going on in the Watchtower. And also there's so many men too that they're really not elder materials. So this is really starting to catch up on the elders. And I'm going to read you a letter in just a while about a letter that the elder just got this week from the Watchtower on how they've got to really go after younger men. They've got to actually capture young men who are reaching out, and they want to capture them and bring them into the elder ecosystem. So it'd be much harder for them to escape. Oh yeah, that's the same thing Adolf Hitler did, right? Get all these young men, make them SS people, make them committed to Nazism, make them committed to the Fuhrer, and there you have it. You bring them in the ecosystem, and they're not going anywhere. So that's the newest plan for the Watchtower, is to get all these young brothers, really young, and I'm going to read you the letter. When I read you that letter, you're not going to believe it, but they're bringing, forget, late teens, mid-teens, they're saying early teens and even before. If there's a brother that's outstanding and he's not even 12 years old yet, start looking at him, get him to do something. This is so reminiscent of what Hitler did. The same thing. They play the same games. But I'm hearing things that are going on in some of these congregations that's just flabbergasting to me. And I got the report from one sister, and she said she can't believe what happened to her this week. She said that her sister-in-law was inactive for over a year. In other words, what does that mean to be inactive in the Jehovah's Witnesses? It means that, you're really not out in service. And in this particular case, she wasn't even going to meetings. She wasn't even going on the Zoom meetings. And, she got an email, or actually a WhatsApp messenger from Facebook. An elder wrote her a message, and she couldn't believe it. Inactive for over a year, hasn't been going to the meetings, hasn't been out in service. And the elder asked her if she could do a part on the meeting. Yeah. I mean, they must be desperate. Must be desperate. I mean, they're going to ask an inactive. When was the last time you heard of an inactive witness giving a talk? And especially a sister. That is absolutely nuts. So anyways, she really was saying that was just mind-boggling to her. She was saying it must really, really be bad. The Watchtower is showing desperation at the highest order. And then I'm hearing things like, I can't believe either. She also told me she had a brother-in-law, and the elder called him up because he hasn't been going to the meetings regularly. And an elder actually called him up and said, hey, I'll pick you up for the meetings. Well, that's something you would never really. When's the last time you were a Jehovah's Witness? And maybe once in a while you had to call an elder or someone for a ride. But when was the last time they're calling you up and say, I'll pick you up if you're ready? Come on. So something's going on. This is not your grandfather's organization anymore. And then also, you say, well, maybe that's just in America that people are letting up and the young kids don't want anything to do with the witnesses. But no, I got a report coming in from Africa today, from Kenya and Nairobi. And this one particular brother, he was a young brother, and he gave me some information that I want to share with you. He said that there were young people in his congregation in Nairobi that are getting up and walking away in droves. And so he wanted to let that be known to the audience tonight, that the young ones are just leaving. Now, that's it. Now, you can do what you want with this, but I'm going to tell you, things are collapsing hard, very hard for the Watchtower. They're in panic mode. And we've been talking about that. Now, not only the governing body, but also the elders. Now, you just stop and put yourself in an elder's shoes. Suppose you had a congregation that had 120 people before COVID. Now COVID's over, so you opened up the Kingdom Halls. Now you got 60, 50 people meeting. And there's a lot of empty seats. And you as an elder know darn well that some of these people are never coming back because it's not just COVID. They had time to research how evil this cult is, and they left. But you can't tell that to people. Well, look what the elders have got to be holding in. You can't go and say, well, we don't have a lot of people coming here anymore because they all became apostates. Geez, wouldn't that want to encourage these people to want to look things up and see why did they leave? What do they know that I don't know? So the organization is in a really, let me put it this way, it's a predicament. It's a predicament. I don't know how they're going to be. I'll tell you, they are getting backed up in the corner left and right. So I'm glad to hear this is all happening. And that gives us all hope, friends. That gives us all hope for what's going to happen in the future. And we're going to talk a little bit tonight, too, about on how we're going to start to have contact with our relatives and friends that are Jehovah's Witnesses. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. So you stay in here with us. All right. Before we go to our story about Ramapo up in New York, I just wanted to bring this other short little story up and discuss it. I wanted to tell you that this week's Watchtower is awful. I don't know if you saw it, but it's terrible. In summary, what they're discussing in this week's Watchtower is you should trust the brothers. Now, I'm reading this right from the Watchtower. You should trust the brothers in the congregation, even if they do outrageously terrible things. If you had someone do outrageous, terrible things to you, could you really trust them? Well, the Watchtower is saying, even though this may be happening in the congregation, you have to trust your brothers. And they're using the example of Hannah in the Bible and how she was supporting Jehovah's arrangements, even though Eli made false accusations against her, even while her sons who served at the temple were doing atrocious things, and everyone knew about it. So even though Hannah knew all of these terrible things, she still had to trust those that were saying terrible things and doing terrible things. So they're using her as a biblical example for you as a Jehovah's Witness today to trust your brother. Well, he only stole $40,000 from me. Well, trust him. Lend him another 1,000. I mean, is that what this is all about? So this is just proof to me that the Watchtower organization is a man-made organization with no spirit, period. There is no Holy Spirit in the Watchtower. And I have to tell you, the Watchtower leaders, they want blind obedience. They don't, see, they want you to be obedient no matter what. Even though you see corruption with your brothers, even though you're seeing everything going to hell in a handbasket in the Watchtower, they want you to have blind obedience. Well, see, they're probably getting feedback that people are becoming less submissive and less obedient. Therefore, they're reminding the friends that they are in authority. That is the elders and the Watchtower governing body. They're reminding the friends that they are in authority and have the backing of the highest supernatural force in the universe. That, of course, is Jehovah God. So, yes, keep in mind that these articles, because what I was thinking, why you have an article like this, to trust your brothers, because there's so much coming out in the newspapers. And just what we read a couple of weeks ago with the investigations going on against the Jehovah's Witnesses in Pennsylvania. Remember the Attorney General Shapiro? He's now the governor. So he started a grand jury investigation with a number of elders in Pennsylvania that were committing pedophilia on children in the congregations. And see, so the Watchtower knows these articles are going to come up in the paper. They know what's going on, so they tried to prepare ahead of time. So that's why I'm thinking this article is appearing this week in the Watchtower concerning trusting your brother no matter what. Oh, yeah, trust a pedophile. Trust a pedophile. Yeah, even in this magazine right here. I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna hold this magazine up so you can see it. I pulled this off the dusty shelves of the 6 Screens library here. Well, this article right here, this is January 1st, 1997. And I'm going to show you that right there. This is who you got to trust. Now, listen to what I'm going to say here. I want you to hear this. Let's open it up. Let me read it to you. Now, this is one of the most disgusting paragraphs ever written in a Watchtower publication. It's talking about child molesters. Now, suppose there's a child molester in the congregation. Now, we're going back to 1997 here. But suppose there's a child molester in the congregation. Well, what are you going to do with a child molester once you find out about him? Well, it says if he seems to be repentant, he will be encouraged to make spiritual progress. He'll share in the field service, even have parts in the theocratic ministry school, and in non-preaching parts in the service meetings. So here you have a Watchtower article that's saying that, okay, even though a person has been a pedophile, a predator, a person that molests children sexually, and if he's repentant, he can go back out in service. Friends, what is that going to do? Pedophiles, it's been said a million times, not only on here, but you guys have heard it before. Pedophiles don't really repent. They can tell you they're repenting, but they don't. They're going to go out and do the same thing over and over again. So that's right out of the pages of the Watchtower right there. So, this is why people are catching up. People are catching up on these guys. The cult is really pushing for control over everyone's minds. And it's going to be breaking here very, very soon. It's going to be breaking. Something really needs to...
Yeah, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Steve, Rick. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, when they do stuff like that, when they say that someone's serving in the congregation or contributing to the congregation that's a pedophile, all they're doing is helping build that person's cover. Because as witnesses are trained, when you see someone who's active in the congregation, they're given undue credit for being somewhat of a spiritual person. So they are helping that pedophile hide in plain sight and to build their cover so they can be a predator. That's all they're doing. Because like you said earlier, I think the failure rate for any pedophile that tries to recover, or pedophiles that are not willing to try to recover, is like 98% failure rate. So anything they do is continuing to protect and harbor pedophiles in this demonic organization. That's all they're doing.
Well, it is.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Steve. It is a very demonic organization. Yeah. So.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
I was going to say, I talked to a psychologist about it, and there is no rehabilitation for it. They can't, maybe medication, she didn't tell me that, but there is no basic rehabilitation for a pedophile. And I've also heard that when witnesses go to prisons, that the pedophiles are really the only ones that'll talk to them. And that's what I've heard, folks. But I guess that's my comment.
Well, that's good enough comment. That's a good enough comment. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for chiming in. All right, my goodness, I want to bring this next story up. Because it's important. We've been talking about it now for, I tell you, going on over a year now. It has to do with that Ramapo, New York area. And I have friends that live up in the area. And of course, I get information. I subscribe to the newspaper as well up in Ramapo area and their Herald, their daily news, so to speak. And I'm finding all about the Watchtower. But this week, in fact, right on the front page, it was the headlines of the newspaper up in that Sullivan, Orange County area. And the headlines was saying that the Watchtower is going forward with their Ramapo media complex, mega media complex. So that's not good news, but they're going ahead with it. And, it really surprises me that they would do that, because the neighbors really don't know how miserable it's going to make to have Jehovah's Witnesses in your backyard. It's not going to be a pleasant thing. And the reason why I even bring it up here tonight, because I wanted to talk about it for a few minutes. It's unusually weird that the residents of Orange County and that Ramapo area, Ramapo mostly, that's the town it's in, it's really unusual that they really would do this and allow the witness to build this giant mega studio with 645 apartments. It's going to cost the Watchtower close to $500 million or more. But the problem that I was trying to suggest, which they wouldn't let me when I tried to get into their meeting, I got on Zoom and I got into the meeting, but they wouldn't let me talk. They wouldn't let me talk about the problems that Jehovah's Witnesses are having right now with child abuse and how they shun people and hurt people. This is going to be their world headquarter area producing films, and who knows what type of harm can come to the people in the area because of the Jehovah's Witness evil practices. So let me just bring you up to speed here and why I'm thinking this is odd that it was even passed. Now, Sullivan County, that's the next county next to Orange. And we do have a woman, I believe she is on the phone with us. Barbara, are you on the phone with us tonight from Orange, from Sullivan County? Is Barbara on the line with us tonight? Well, we're going to see, Barbara. If you hit *6. If you are, Barbara, just hit *6 on your telephone pad, and that will unmute you. Barbara from Sullivan County. She was going to come in. I talked to her today. Well, we'll see if she comes in. She'll probably come in. But she wanted to talk a little bit. She lives in the area. She wanted to let us know what's going on with Watchtower and how people are talking about it. But we'll bring her on here in a few seconds. I'm sure she'll come on. So let's take a look at what I came up with here in Sullivan County. The next town over, they're having monumental issues with another religious sect that's odd in many ways. And I wanted to just let you be aware of that. In fact, I'm gonna show you the sect that is in Sullivan County that is causing a whole lot of problems. Now, I'm not picking on these people per se, but I just want to show you something here that I think you'll find very, very fascinating. This area up there, this area in New York, seems to be attracting religious sects, oddball type stuff is going on. So let me just show you a picture here. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to share it. It's right there. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can see it. But what you have over here is you have got the Hasidic Jews. Let's see if I can just get that in here. Why isn't that not coming up? Okay, these are Hasidic Jews, and you know who they are. They are the Jewish people. It's a strange sect of Judaism. They are the Jewish men and women. They dress funny. They have long beard. They have funny hats. They dress mostly in black. You know who I'm talking about. Well, those people, a lot of them are moving out of Brooklyn and they're moving into Sullivan County. That's the next county right over from where Watchtower is in Ramapo. And what is taking place, and I talked to a person today that knows a lot about it. He's on an environmental impact board in Sullivan County. And he brought to my attention that there's so many Jewish ascetic Jews moving in. It's creating a real problem for the town. And, at first you don't notice this, but this is the same thing that's going to happen in Ramapo. The witnesses are going to come in. They're going to build their mega studio. They're going to have people start, well, I want to live up by I want to live up by Ramapo. I want to live up in Warwick by the world headquarters. It's going to be like a big compound. It's going to grow expeditiously with witnesses moving there, coming there to view the studio. But just to give you some statistics on Sullivan County and the Hasidic Jew problem that they've got. In 2017, the whole county of Sullivan County, New York, was 75,485 people. But something started happening. The Hasidic Jews started coming up from Brooklyn and settling in the area, buying homes up, businesses up, hotels even up. And all these businesses are being brought up by the Hasidic Jews. And then in the summer, many of them would come up and vacation there. So just to give you an idea, like in just a few months' time, the population goes from 75,500 to over 300,000 in just a few months. It's an invasion of the Hasidic Jew. And I won't go too much into it, but the town is having a hard time. Not everyone likes the idea of all of these Jewish people moving in. They have some very strange beliefs, like the witnesses, like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Did Ramapo do their homework? Did Ramapo check these guys out? I tried to tell them about it, and they wouldn't listen. But the Hasidic Jews, they're very much they're very much like Jehovah's Witnesses in some respects. There's a lot of things they do that is somewhat weird. I'll just give you some understanding. Asceticism is a lifestyle characterized by the abstinence from sensual pleasure, often for the purpose of spiritual goals. Well, who do you know that they don't want you to have sensual pleasure, but they want you to refrain from vacations, playing sports, doing things like that, and they want you to pursue spiritual goals. The same thing in the witness organization, isn't it? So in the process of having that ideal or that premise about them, these people are very unique. They don't really buy much. They don't want any sensual pleasures. They're opening their own restaurants, eating their own food. So they're not really even helping the communities. And the witnesses are going to do the same thing. If the town of Ramapo thinks all these witnesses are going to come in and, oh my goodness, we're going to have thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses buying subs in our sub shop, sleeping in our hotels. There isn't many hotels. There's only one in Warwick I know of. But just give you an example. It's not going to happen. The witnesses don't spend. They're not a big spending group. As a matter of fact, many witnesses are cheap, if you don't mind me saying. They really, really are. So we got a group in Sullivan County. Sullivan County has been taken over by a strange religious group. Now, they refuse, these ascetic Jews, as I say, they're different. They do everything in moderation, very much like the witnesses in their eating, drinking, and sexual behavior. And they even go into, well, their lifestyle and their dress, for example. The women, let me tell you a little bit about the women. First of all, marriages are arranged. Now, I want you to see the similarities. Marriages are arranged in the Hasidic Jewish community at age 17, 18, or 19. That doesn't kind of like the same thing happen in the Jehovah's Witnesses. And physical modesty is paramount. Bodies must be covered fully, and all clothing is formal. Well, that's pretty much, I have to say, like the witnesses. Physical modesty, they don't want you to look like some type of a ragamuffin. I understand that. That part I don't have too much of a problem with, but it's everything. Your physical appearance, the way you look out in service, the way you keep your car, everything is physical. Bodies must be covered fully with all clothing is formal. Everything you see these men and women, it's always a nice dress or black suit these guys got on, a long black coat or whatever. But Hasidic Jewish women, they follow strict rules of modesty. Skirts hang below the knee and sleeves extend past the elbows. They can't show their elbows, or they can't show their knees. Well, the witnesses don't have a rule against elbows. I hope I'm not going to talk them into doing anything here tonight, but they do want women wearing skirts below their knees. But the point I'm bringing this, why would I bring this even up on the 6 screens? It's because you have a community, Sullivan community, right next to Orange County. That is where this complex is going to be built. Now, you have a county right next door that is being overrun by a religious oddball sect that's taken the whole county over. But now you've got Ramapo, you've got Orange County, and they're getting this Ramapo mega media center just stamped. No one's questioning it. Here, make it, do it. Something's going on. Something is going on. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight because I have to really tell you what I'm going to see if we have Barbara on here, see what she wants to tell us. Barbara coming out of New York. Are you on there with us tonight, Barbara? Hit *6 if you are. Barbara coming out of New York. If you're on there with us tonight, hit *6. Well, she lives up in the area and she's going to tell us a little bit about it. I talked to her today. I had this arranged, but I'll just tell you what she said. She was saying, Rick, she said, it's just this whole area, Sullivan County, where she lives. She lives about 8 miles, I think she said, from Watchtower itself, the headquarters. But she lives in Sullivan County, but she says it's not the same anymore. All of these Hasidic Jews are coming in. They're changing everything. They're building buildings. And it's just not the same quaint little place. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen to Ramapo. Is that you on the line, Barbara? Barbara from New York.
No, but
Go ahead.
But I will tell you why having thousands of JWs in Ramapo is a good idea. You want me to tell you why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you have to think like a crook. If you're a politician, like in Arizona, because I live in Maricopa County, and if you can have thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses in your county, every single one of them is going to be registered to vote, and they're going to be harvested, and they won't even know it. And you just hand it over to the corrupt politicians. And they did that all over Maricopa County, people going to the old people's homes. In San Luis, in Yuma, Arizona, Yuma County, right down the Mexican border,
they were interviewing the residents, and the residents thought that you were just supposed to hand over your voting ballots that you got in the mail to certain groups of people that collected them. So yeah, it'd be my dream. If I was a politician, I would love to have 1,000 JEHOVAH'S in my district, and I would be connected with Watchtower, of course. I rubber stamp this. I get the I get your registered vote in the mail. I'm just saying.
Oh no, well there's nothing wrong with you saying that. I mean, I'm with you. They're going to play games with that, but up there in Sullivan County, you've got the county being taken over by a religious sect. You've got the Watchtower now going to open their complex and change the whole environmental area. It's not going to be this rural little place if you're going to have this mega movie studio up there. But I want
to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Is some money coming from DC? Is there any money coming from DC in that other county that is giving them? And people don't know about it, but yeah, they're receiving funds from the federal government. Say, hey, house all these Hasidic Jews.
Well, it could be. It really, really could be, because I'll tell you what the Hasidic Jews are doing. And according to these people I talked to today that live up there, well, what they're doing is they're coming into town, even though the Watchtower, they don't vote, but you say they're still going to be able to capture their voting rights. But the Hasidic Jews vote. So what they're all doing, they're moving in by the thousands. And what they're doing is they're voting their own people into office. So all of the people, the natives and the indigenous people, so to speak, of that area, they're being kicked out, and the Hasidic Jews are taking over. So, the Watchtower, I'm telling you, I think it's corrupt up there. I really, really do. I think it's corrupt because they wouldn't let me speak. And I believe that, in fact, I would be sure of it, that there's, a lot of green handshakes going on, a lot of green handshakes. But, well, why would I even bring this up? The reason why I bring it up, and I talked to, when they wouldn't let me speak up in the meeting, and I tried to get in 3 different times. A couple of times they let me in, but shut me right down. But when I tried to speak up, they kept saying, no, we're not going to discuss that. I says, all I want to do is let the people know a little bit about the Watchtower. You got people moving up here, and I want people to know who their neighbors are going to be. No, we're not. No, don't discuss that tonight. So when they wouldn't let me speak the second time, I called the next day, the town of Ramapo, and I wanted to speak to their legal department. And I asked I asked the people that I talked to. I believe she was a paralegal or a lawyer for the town. She didn't identify her, but I asked for the legal department, and they put her on. And I told her what my name was and why I was calling her. And I said they had a town meeting last night that was a public meeting. And, a public meeting allows for people to come in and voice their opinion. And I said, I tried to do that, and they wouldn't let me talk. She says, they wouldn't? I says, no. And she says, well, who told you? I says, as soon as I came on, they muted me, and they said, we're not going to let you talk. So she says, well, that shouldn't have happened. So I said, well, it did, but, I'm not going to sue anybody over it. But the point I'm making here is I want you to know who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Have you been following them in the news? Just punch it into Google. Have you found out about the child molestation, sexual predators they're hiding? And you're going to let all of these people come up into this beautiful little rural community where people come and vacation? And it's going to be known as the pedophile capital of America. That's what I told her. I mean, is that a nice title to have for a nice remote community like this? And, she wouldn't really.
Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick, so what does the pedophilia come from? What's the genesis of it? If the Jehovah's Witnesses have a vein of pedophilia in it, and it comes from Masonry, which comes from Islam, and in Islamic heaven, you are given, in Jannah, you are given 72 virgins, which everyone knows about. But you are also given 300 little pearly boys, and you are given a permanently erect penis in Islamic heaven. Now, if you look at that Mecca Kaaba cube, there's a giant vagina hanging off the corner of it. Okay? Now, the Kaaba Cube in Mecca is 666 nautical miles from the Dome of the Rock in Israel. Okay, so where the witnesses fit into this Masonic checkerboard structure is that the Staros is really an obelisk. Okay, if you look behind the White House, you will see an obelisk standing there. The Washington Monument is a giant white phallus. Okay, now there are two circles that intersect, like the MasterCard logo. That's called the Vesica Pisces. Okay, that's the oval. In the White House, you have the Oval Office. At the Kaaba Cube, you have a vagina. That's also an oval. This is sex magic. That's why you have the pedophilia and all of the sexual misconduct in the Watchtower organization. Prince was a Jehovah's Witness. Michael Jackson, a Jehovah's Witness, grabbing his crotch and his music videos. It's all for the demonic, okay? They farm people, okay? Humans farm, demons farm, Satan farms, okay? The Jehovah's Witness organization is a farm, okay? It's making you go door to door. You renounce Christ as the Son of God. You say the Holy Ghost is the impersonal act of force. So there goes your protection. It's designed to be a SRA, a satanic ritual abuse in slow motion. And that's what these kingdom halls are doing. The churches have bunches of windows. You know, a lot of kingdom halls don't have windows. It's an opposite church, okay? And you are cursing yourself when you go about your day-to-day as a Jehovah's Witness, like Westworld. These are like, you know, a fantasy world with sex robots in it. That is what the allegory of the show was. They broadcast it to you.
Well,
You have to understand.
Well, no, in fact, you know, 2 years ago, a year ago, I'd say, gee, brother, you know, it's a little strange. But, you know, more and more is coming out about this, not only in the world of religion, but in the world of entertainment, in the sports world. It's out there. It's becoming known, that the political world, as you say. So I'm not debating anything you say. There has to be some common ingredient for all of this perversion that's going on.
That is sex magic. If you look at Solomon, there's an allegory in Solomon's life where he had 1,000 women. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He was an accidental tourist, and his life is a teachable moment in the Bible. If you look at Balaam telling Balak, make the Israelites fornicate with these women and God will turn his back on them. If you look at Samaria, the woman at the well had 5 husbands and the 6th man was not a husband. It's an allegory that runs through the scriptures, and it's about sex magic, and it's about the perversion. If they get you drooling, they can control your mind. And that's called astral projection. That's astral vampirism. It's in the Talmud. It's in the Quran.
Yeah.
The prophet himself had the divination in his woman in his wife's clothes.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, there's so much you could
allegorical.
So much we could go on forever. But listen, you know what?
Kanye
okay.
West is doing.
Yeah.
The Balenciaga, it's Baal. It's Baal Balenciaga. Like Baal is king. So they have that whole children exploitation that they're going through. Look at Bruce Jenner.
Okay, we're gonna let's
look at the Kardashians. They made him a Baphomet.
Yeah.
That's sex magic, and now it's being taught in children's schools.
It sounds what you're saying is sounding reasonable, but you know what we're gonna do? I don't want to stay on the subject all night. Hold on one second.
I got you.
Oh, now hold on
Have a
one
good
second.
night.
Oh, hold on one second. I'm going to ask you, why don't you write me? You and I can get together. I'll give you your own program on Sunday. Well, he left. But
I'll do that. I got the
write me,
email address.
JJW World News. Let's talk about it. And because it's a subject, I mean, the sex magic, the Enochian magic, it's part of, it's something we should discuss. We discuss all angles of what the Watchtower is doing, and we should bring that into the arrangement so that people can get an idea. It's an idea, and certainly is an idea that could be true.
Wide shut stuff. You see all the smut that's being peddled out there.
I find it curious that the old neighbors from Brooklyn are moving up close to the witnesses again. I guess they were on good terms in terms of business and everything. Are they going to have delicious, wonderful cheesecake factories and things? I mean,
well, Ramapo, New Jersey is, they after the Grote family up there. It's kind of a no-go zone. So that's why New York is the 11th state added to the union. Okay, do you know the "Don't Tread on Me" flag? How it's a coiled serpent. Okay,
yes.
So when you look at it, it's because that northeastern corridor had a lot of occult activities going on up there. Okay,
right.
That's why it's that way, and it's.
But the Watchtower had all those Hasidic neighbors in Brooklyn, so it's like, I guess everybody got a good price for the properties, and they're just kind of moving up near them again.
Well, they practice Solomonic witchcraft. That's what the star on the flag is. That's what they use to banish demons. They have turned to Canaanite demon worship. That's what the scriptures say in Joshua chapter 23, verse 56. It says, God says that I'm going to do to you what I thought to do to them. So they are them.
All right. So what we're going to do, we got to get so much news today. What I want to, hold on, Jeff. What I want to say to the fella calling in with this, write me on.
Have good cheesecake and chat again.
Yeah. Well, what you want to do, I want to just, I like the subject. I'd carry on with it, but we got more news to do. But write me. I want to get your own program on here. And when you can talk to the cows come home. Write me at JW World News. Okay.
I'll write you. I don't need a program. I need an hour.
Well, yeah, but it'll be a program. No, because it's something that we'll address, but it's got to be done, in its own forum.
I got you.
Okay, good.
But it is. If you look at Joseph.
Well, no, let's stop right here. Let's not, because it's just gonna look at. Let's stop. Let's stop right. Let's stop right.
It's sex magic. All right, I'll stop.
Okay.
Have a good night, Rick.
All right. No, once people get wound up, it's hard to shut them down. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. I was going to say a lot of what this last gentleman says, a lot of it's sex, but I'll tell you what, as far as keeping you or them not listening to you at Ramapo, it's about money. People have been paid to keep opposition shut. And they want this thing to go through. Watchtower's still got a lot of money to spend after selling all these Kingdom Halls and all the people they've ripped off through the years and got their mortgages and everything else after they passed away, life savings of what they had. Yeah, I mean, that's my comment, sir.
All right.
And it's just they kept you from talking. It's all about money.
We got it. We got it, Jeff. Thank you. All right. So anyways, let's get back to business here. No, I mean, we try to do the news, but it's fascinating. People come in, they have different thoughts. And you know what I tried to do here at the 6 screens, and we get penalized for it. I know from time to time you hear things you never heard before. I hear things I never heard before. But friends, I'm willing to look under every rock. I'm willing to look at every single piece of information I can get on these guys. I want to know what makes them tick. And I'm not ruling out that demonism is a big factor, whether you guys want to believe it or not. So this guy, he sounds pretty fascinating at times. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's look at this. How can anyone pioneer in this economy? That's what I'm wondering. And they're still signing pioneers up. But I'm wondering, I got to mute some people here. Now, what I want you guys to do, when you want to speak up, you hit *6. And when you're done speaking, hit *6 again. All right. And that way there, we won't get all this background noise and all of this. I mean, it makes my job so much easier, friends. I've got, 7 computers running here and trying to find out where the noise is coming from. It's like, takes a little time. So work with me, please. Work with me. The rule of thumb here is when you want to speak up, you hit *6. And then when you're done speaking, hit *6 again. That'll mute you. So how can anyone pioneer in this economy? That's what I would like to know. I'm living here in Boston, and you can barely get a 2-bedroom apartment, seriously, for under $2,000 a month. It's more like $25,000 to $3,000 a month. Now, you guys, if you remember the days that you were pioneering, I came close. I never did. I exhilarated there for a short while, but I came close to being a pioneer, being coerced, but I'm glad I never went for it. But it's really a tough thing. It was tough back in the 60s and 70s, but imagine what it would be like today. How can you pay your rent? I mean, you still have to be having other expenses as well, and the Watchtower is giving you nothing for it. Now, I know a lot of pioneers, they're actually subsidized by their parents. Okay. Oh, Johnny, Johnny, you be a pioneer. You live right here and we'll take care of you. And you're doing Jehovah's work. And so they do that. And so also the congregation, I've been in congregations where they say, gee, if you have a few extra dollars, why don't you, help a pioneer out with tires for his car or give him a little green handshake or something. So, maybe that's how they make it. But many pioneers is self-employed. And the husband and wife are both working in a business together, a little business they might have. So they might be able to do it. But, gee, I'll tell you what, it would be a real burden pioneering today, wouldn't it? It would be absolutely ridiculous. And even those that have pioneered in the past, I'm sure right now they're thinking, man, all that time, all that effort, all the money I spent to pioneer, what do I got for it today? And now they see that their retirement really is lousy. And we had a woman on here named Susan from California. She came in one time a while back and talked to us. She was a special pioneer up in South Dakota. Oh my goodness. It was freezing up there in the winter. And she was, they were giving her and her husband $15 a week. And that they had to buy their own gas. They had to pay rent. He had to do a little part-time work to make enough. How bad is that? Terrible. I don't know how they would do it, but I just wanted to bring that up. So I don't see the witnesses, the Watchtower organization. I don't see them bringing in many new pioneers. I just can't see it. And unless I'm looking through the wrong set of glasses here, I just can't see it with the way the economy is. It's not conducive to going into the pioneer work. I got good news for you. I got real good news for you. Many of our Jehovah's Witness relatives and friends, they may be talking to us soon. How does that sound? Well, geez, that sounds good to me. Does anyone out there listening to this program tonight, do you feel like we are heading to a movement of great change in the Jehovah's Witness organization? Do you feel it in the air? Is there a renaissance of reformation coming? Really? Is this going to be a whole new era for us in the Watchtower, for us ex-witnesses? Well, maybe yes.
Excuse me, Rick, this is Mary. Hi, all, and thanks for everything that you do, Rick. I think, so I had a presiding overseer's wife talk to me for about an hour and a half. Hadn't talked to her in a few years because I've been marked and shunned, but I guess it's okay for her to talk to me now. And she still talks to me as if I am a witness. And even though, she thinks that I'm going to die in Armageddon in her brain, she did tell me just in the conversation that they don't go door to door anymore where I'm at. Also, you're able to do the Pioneer Hours through many ways, which I know you know, Rick. What they can do is do internet trolling. So maybe set up a burner account and get on websites such as yours or different YouTube videos that are trying to, speak the truth about what goes on in there. And they can do their hours by trolling with a burner account. They write letters. I know that because they wrote me letters. Also, when I was studying, it took me 20 years or 18 years before I got baptized. And so I didn't know until after I got baptized that thousands upon thousands of hours were counted towards pioneer work and other ministerial servants, or not ministerial, that's the wrong verbiage here. What do you call it? Unbaptized publishers and so forth. That when you spend time with a prospective JW person or householder, that you can count the hours, not just studying with them or talking to them about the literature. You can count your hours by going over and hanging out with them, taking them shopping with you like they did me. So, and they also lie on their hours. I know because they admitted it to me. All of the pioneers, they told me they lied.
Yeah, well, they do. Well, the point that you make here is you are starting in context of what we're talking about here tonight. The witnesses are starting to talk to you. So, well, thank you for sharing that with us, Mary. Thank you.
Oh, so you just brought out, Rick,
Can I ask a question?
That helps me, Rick, because, I was thinking that I should be witnessing to them, but I'm shutting down now. I am just thinking that they are just trying to count hours by trying to talk to me or whatever they're doing. Yeah, you're right. Probably right.
Did you?
Thank you, Rick.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Do you have a question, sir? Do you want to come in? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hi. I've been listening to you for a little bit. I'm still in. I was baptized in 72 and been in a while. So I think you're doing a great service in waking people up and coming out. But after that, what do you advocate they go? Because I've had it brought up to me when I tried to wake up my friends in the truth. To who do we go to?
Well, to be quite frank, I'll just give you a little rundown. I was one of the anointed witnesses, but I understand now that all Christians were anointed. I partook. As a matter of fact, I was even in the year 2000 because I was in good standing and an anointed brother. And I was invited down to the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses in Brooklyn and for an interview for a potential position on the governing body. And when I got down there, I realized that this isn't the truth. It's nothing more than a big business. But you were asking, where do you go? I'm a Christian man today. I don't get into preaching here on Saturday night, but on Sunday we have the Sunday program, and there we bring up spiritual matters, and we bring up Christian arrangements and what real Christianity is. And we have programs on Sunday, every other Sunday. We have them tomorrow, where people come in and we discuss spiritual positions that people take when they leave the Watchtower. Yes.
So we don't talk spiritual things at this point, you're saying?
If I could just to the gentleman that maybe he's never really looked at what he has interests in.
Pixie,
maybe I would just like to ask a question.
He could a year of just doing his interests. There's something called the Men's Shed Association.
We're not going to go there, Pixie. Let's not change the subject. Let's stay on the business.
Oh, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was mentioning that there's a organization called the Men's Shed Association that's international, where gentlemen get together. It's not a religious organization, but they help their community with their carpentry skills and things like that. There's probably things he'd like that he's never thought of.
He's not asking about that, are you? Are you asking about that, sir?
Not really.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You're not.
What I'm asking
Rick.
Well, hold on. Let's do one person here at a time. What the man is, let me handle this now. What the man, at least what I'm trying to gather here, is he's wondering, what happens with Jehovah's Witnesses when they leave the organization? Where do they go for spirituality? Do they become Christians? That's what he's asking. I mean, he's not.
Okay, but there's a social world too.
No, I'm aware of all that. I have a specific question. Thank you, though. What I'd like to ask is, you claim to be the anointed. You had a witness of the Holy Spirit with you, correct?
Yes.
Could you explain what happened?
Well, I'm not going to go into it tonight, but you know, if you want to email me, why don't you email me at jwworldnews@gmail.com.
Because I had a witness of the Spirit. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, no. Well,
Go ahead.
why don't you email me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I'll talk to you till the cows come home. I'd love to, but we have an audience here that's not going to listen. And a lot of these people,
I'm aware.
They have been so
Thank you for that.
they have been so spiritually abused that they're not going to listen. They're afraid. They're afraid of religion, and rightfully so for many of them. So I don't get into it. I'm not a Bible thumping, in your face type Christian. I love God. I always did, but I'm going to let others carry their way of doing business with Him. And
Gotcha. Could I get that email one more time?
It's jwworldnews@gmail.com. And you write me, you give me a telephone number, I'll call you. We'll talk about it. I'd love to talk to you about it, but I can't do it here. It'll just get people riled up. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. This is the first day I've ever called.
Well, thank you for coming in. I'd love to, if you're around tomorrow, come in tomorrow, beginning at 12 o'clock, we have a program. And we have programs all afternoon.
Okay.
So
Hello, Rick.
Same telephone number. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Rick. This is Joe.
Yes, Joe.
How are you? Great program.
I'm good. Thank you.
Great program. I would just like to acknowledge here, with everything that's going on with everybody, and the fact that we can deal with these issues that are much greater than we ever dealt with while we were in the Watchtower. I'd like to say that as apostates, we're really graduates. We're Watchtower graduates. And I'm going to view myself as a Watchtower graduate, as well as all the other people, my friends here, that are dealing with these things.
Well, yeah, in fact, you guys, I mean, I'm proud of you, Joe, and your wife. Now, why don't we get you on here right now? We talked this week, and spend a few minutes here and just let the audience know what you're up to and what you're doing. And I found it fascinating because you want to be an activist, and you're in my camp. You're a baby boomer like me, and generally we don't see a lot of baby boomers jumping into the activist ring. But you and your wife are doing it. Why don't you explain to the audience what you're doing? Okay.
Yes. Thanks, Rick. What we're doing is raising awareness of everything that we've been talking about, not only the issues that are facing us, everyone. I mean, us personally, we were in since 1985. We're in 36 years. We're out now. We sent our letter, and I think you've got that, and we read that letter. It's a public letter, and we've been handing it out to people. We've handed it out and spoke to 2 radio stations and gave them the letter. We've given it to people who come to our shop who will take it.
We gave it to the mayor.
We went to the mayor's office. Where else did we go? Lawyer.
Our psychiatrist.
We're looking right now to keep track of everything we've done because, frankly, I forget it all so much.
Yeah, there's
there's a center here not far from us. It's called the Good News Center. And it's programs. They're partly religiously affiliated, but what they do, they help people who are coming off drugs and other difficulties, and who just want to do something good with their life. We're actively pursuing raising awareness of the dangers of shunning. We're doing it visibly now. We're not afraid to identify ourselves. We're one of the things with as apostates. I personally don't like the idea that the word apostate has been so demonized. Apostates aren't demonized people. We are, frankly, as I said, I'm going to view myself and us as graduates. We've graduated from the Watchtower. We've left it. We're gone. And we're on to things that are important now. Fran's here with me, and she wants to say something too.
Well, Joe mentioned, hi, Rick. Joe mentioned that we went to the radio station, the local radio station, and we told him how we were on your show last week. And we did the 2-hour program on suicide in the Watchtower. And I said, all you have to do is go to YouTube and type that in, suicide in the Watchtower, and we'll come right up. So he did. And he said, do you mind if we put this on our Facebook page? And he said, we've got like 20,000 viewers and followers. And we said, no, we don't mind. So the next morning it was on our names, our phone number. And like Joe said, we're just trying to, bring up awareness in our community. So I thought that was great exposure. And he was he was young, and he's really affected by, he didn't know that this is going on in the Watchtower, but he had heard other religions and the problems that they were going through. So he was very interested, and we're not going on the program just yet, but we will eventually. The assemblyman that we talked with, he wants to go on because he's a good friend of the radio station. He's on all the time. And so is our brother-in-law, David, the one that wrote what was the name of his paper? Shunning is the new hate crime. And David's still trying to get that published, but I think they'll go on that radio station, and it's a talk show, and they will talk about the shunning and everything. So that's where we're at.
Well, that's a good position to be in, and you guys are really doing what you want to do to get the word out. So we appreciate it. And of course, you guys had the program just it was I believe it was 2 weeks ago. Was it last week?
Last week
on the suicide, yeah. And that program is getting a lot of hits on YouTube, and people are loving it. I'm still getting email. I got 2 or 3 in the last couple of days since I talked to you on how people really like that program. So you guys are making a difference, Joe and Fran, and we always appreciate your company. We want to make sure you guys are giving us all of the latest that you're involved with. And we're going to be talking about you coming back on with that suicide program and strategies for leaving the Watchtower. That's going to be a program that's going to be coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks. So we're going to talk about that. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
Thanks, sir.
Well, thank you, Joe and Fran. There you have it, friends. People are coming out. It's unbelievable. The amount of people I'm even looking at here tonight coming through the 6 screens, listening into all of our different platforms. We're not only on YouTube. We're on 10 different platforms, friends. We're on Facebook. We're on a number of Facebook groups. We're on, right now, we're also on, we have our own private video suite here as well, where people come in, comment, text to each other, and of course, our radio telephone network. So you're getting out there, the message is getting out. So we really, really enjoy talking to all of the people that call in here tonight. But I wanted to go back. We were talking, and Mary came in. We talked about how now she has some witness relatives, well, not relatives, but friends talking to her. And I just wanted to say that I feel that many of our Jehovah's Witness relatives and friends, they're going to be talking to us soon. And I just feel something in the air. It's like a renaissance is coming, as I said. And I'm seeing that there's going to be a complete downfall, or at least a rebirth of some type of the Watchtower organization. Now, I know a few years ago, back in 2015, they started rebranding, but now they're either going to go down, or there's going to be a brand new rebirth. They're going to come out as a new creature, so to speak. And hey, listen, it's rolling down the hill. It's like a big snowball, and it's gaining momentum. And we're seeing the Watchtower really is looking for everything they possibly can grasp at to survive. And the unrelenting truth is coming forth from the internet. The internet is the great equalizer. The organization, friends, is self-destructing. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, Rick, I agree with you. I had a strange thing happen today. I talked to my younger brother. He's listened to your show a lot, and he's getting way out. But my oldest brother, Doug, is still in, very heavily in. He's one of the reasons I got into the activism. Well, today my brother Paul called me, and I've called my brother Doug several times, and there's never nothing. I'm sure he knows I'm an activist. But today he told my brother Paul, he said, "Hey, I'm going to give Danny a call." Huh? That's what he said. He says, "I'm going to give Danny a call. I haven't talked to him in a while." This is not like my brother Doug. I mean, my brother Doug, I'm an apostate. So you're right, Rick. Something is happening. I was kind of rejoicing, but I got a feeling the reason that this is even happening is it's the pressure that this show and all of us have put on Watchtower to change this policy. Because if they didn't have to, they wouldn't. But don't you think that's funny, Rick? I think you're right. My brother said to me today, he goes, "Doug was asking about you, and he said he's going to give you a call."
Now, when's the last time you heard that?
I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah.
My brother just called me today. He just says, "Hey, Doug's going to give you a call." I'm like, "What? Doug is going to give me a call?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, I've been ignoring Dan. I'm gonna give Danny a call, and I'm gonna talk to Phil. Phil's kind of in a halfway house. He's like, "I'm gonna talk to Phil." And I'm like, whoa, what the heck happened? So there is something going on in there, Rick. There's something going on where I think I wouldn't put my life on it, but I'm thinking they're going to drop some of this shunning to the degree that they've been shunning, like shunning you for years. Because, Rick, they don't have anybody coming in. That's why they got to start the halls up again. I watched a thing today somebody sent to me. It was Tony Morris. And he goes, "Aren't you excited? I think you talked about this last week. Aren't you excited the meetings are coming back? Aren't you glad we're going to be going to the Assembly 2003? And aren't you glad we're going to start to build kingdom halls? We need 15,000 kingdom halls. And we're going to need I started to laugh, but they got to get the old machine going again, which I don't think they're going to get going. So they're trying to probably be nice to us and anybody they can. They're going for the scraps because I'm a scrap to my brother. I'm a bottom feeder. I'm one that left. So to come out and talk to me, they're just grabbing for anybody they can get because they're trying to get the old machine going, the old build buildings again. They said we need 15,000 kingdom halls, they said, and I forget, 1,500 of them this year, and they need circuit assemblies. And I'm thinking, you just sold them off. And then I thought, okay, here's what they're doing. They're just restarting again. Let's get them back in. First thing, we're going to go door to door, and aren't you all excited? And, they're giving all those talks, like you said last week, about it's great to meet face to face. Isn't it wonderful to see your brothers? And they're starting the whole machine up again. So, Rick, in some ways, I think they have to drop the shunning to the degree that they've been shunning. And this is evidence. My brother, my oldest brother, who's a presiding overseer, said, "I'm going to call and talk to Danny."
Well, that's amazing, but I'm gonna play a clip in a little while. Okay. And I would wish that was the case. They're going to stop shunning, but I'm going to tell you about Norway. We're going to talk about that, a couple of stories coming up. And Tony Morris came on and made some comments about what's going on over there. And when you hear the comments, he's saying they're not going to stop shunning, but maybe I'm reading it wrong, but you stay tuned, okay? You stay tuned. I want you to hear the clip, okay? All right, but it could be. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but we'll see what he says. But, I'll tell you what, the Watchtower brand, folks, it's becoming unpopular. It's unappealing. It has no charisma. It has no anything that people can attach to anymore. They are losing like crazy. They're losing control over their members. They're trying to clamp down as much as they possibly can. But I feel like there's something really brewing. And you are also, I think, feeling that. Let's face it. There's something in our makeup and where we have been on the trail of the witnesses. There's something that I think most of us are all feeling brewing right now, and I believe they're in for a major change. And why wouldn't they be? Because the whole world is undergoing a major change right now. Let's think about, turn the TV on. How many people do you see protesting? How many people do you see fighting? Constant protesting, fighting going on all over TV. You know, whether it's in China, whether it's in Taiwan, whether it's in Norway, wherever it is, in Tehran, they're protesting like crazy. The world is in a constant protest. So why wouldn't the Watchtower get a target put on their back? And that's why there's a revolution. There's a revolution that's taking place right now. And I know the world headquarters is aware of that revolution. And I'm glad that we have so many people on here that are at least coming in and talking like Dan just did. They feel the same way. I'm sure you guys that aren't calling in feel the same way at all. So here we have people like I just reported, and Mary came on. She's got witnesses now talking to her. I had some information come to me from this woman that says she hasn't spoken to her sister in 15 years. Her sister calls her up and says, come over for dinner. I mean, that would blow your mind, wouldn't it? But that's what's happening. Many people are now finding out. They're researching the internet. They are finding out the truth about the truth. Now, I have to tell you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel sorry for people like Dan that have lost their whole families because of this shunning and this nasty cult, Watchtower. And I'll tell you what, when people leave that organization, this is how I felt. I wanted to give them money because I felt guilty. I was being shunned. I felt guilty. I felt like I needed to give them half my check. I know people are doing that or have done that in the past, and that's one of their beliefs, or how they see it. They're going to get money from you one way or the other if you leave or you stay in, and hopefully they can pull you back in. But that's what I have to say.
All right. Well, good man, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. But I want to also say to you guys, I have to tell you something. All right. You guys have been watching. I know I say you guys a lot, but you folks, you ex-witnesses, you've been watching. You have been watching on TV, all of these documentaries about the Jehovah's Witnesses and how they're covering up child molestation. Don't you think for 1 second that your friends, relatives who are Jehovah's Witnesses aren't seeing it? It's in newspapers. It's all over the internet. It's on radio. It's on TV. It's in the social media. Everywhere you look, they're talking about how evil the Watchtower is. Now, I have to say without any question of a doubt that there are many husbands and wives that even though they've disagreed for many years, they're now sitting down at the kitchen table and they are discussing this. And, without getting too hostile, because it can get hostile. But husbands and wives, according to the information I got coming in here to the 6 screens, they're sitting down in a sensible, reasonable way and discussing what they feel about the Watchtower. And there's thousands of couples doing that. Now, let me just tell you, I want to share this with you. Even me, I have got many, many relatives in the Jehovah's Witness religion. I'm talking 50 plus nieces, nephews, a lot of people that are close to me that will not even speak with me. But recently, I'm not going to say who, I will not do that. But recently, I have had 3 relatives contact me and tell me they've had enough. But they got to be careful. They got to be very careful. But isn't that something? My heart just lit up. And you're going to get the same thing. Don't you think for a second that there are people that you know and love that are not hearing some of this? It's only a matter of time.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good show.
Who's this? Thank you.
This is Jimmy Bell.
Oh, Jimmy, I didn't recognize your voice, Jimmy.
Hey, I just wanted to make a statement about this whole waking up process and helping folks. I had an experience today to where a gentleman from England and I had a conversation. Now, he reached out to me about 3 weeks ago, and he was like, Jimmy, are you an ex-Jehovah's Witness? And I'm like, yes, I am. He says, well, we need to talk. And I was like, okay. So we played phone tag for about 3 weeks, but we caught up this week, today, as a matter of fact. And he asked me, he says, Jimmy, he says, I know your political stuff. He says, I'm right there with you. He says, but I want to know about this Jehovah's Witness thing. I'm like, well, may I ask why you're asking? He's like, well, we've had Jehovah's Witnesses coming to our door for about a month now. And he says, he says, I'll listen to anybody. He says, I have an open mind. He says, but I want to know a little bit more about them. Now, this guy has nothing, he knows nothing. He didn't even know what Watchtower was. I said, Watchtower is the organization name for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And so after we spent time on the phone for about an hour today, he's like, okay, yep, those people are never coming to my door again. So the reason I bring that out to everybody is because, yeah, when you wake up, you want to get your family and your friends out of the organization, but cognitive dissonance is hard to break through. So if you're not having success in that area, talk to the public, talk to people you work with, talk to people that know nothing about Watchtower, because if you can inform them how evil they are now, then they will be less likely to get involved with them in the future. And you have no clue how many lives you could be protecting by just informing people how evil Watchtower is. That's what I got to say.
Well, that's a good thing to say, Jimmy. Now, we all have missed you, and you're going to be coming back next week with the big pictures. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll put a promo out. We'll get a lot of people. In fact, since you left, things have increased exponentially here at the Six Screens. More and more callers are coming in. So you're going to have a big program, Jimmy. People have been asking for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the viewers. Like I said before on our videos, all we're trying to do is just help folks. You may not believe or agree with everything that we're saying, but our hearts are in the right place. We've done the research. We're looking at everything with a 40,000 foot view, and we can see what's going on. And I just want to share that with folks. I just want to give information to folks where they can start their own journeys. They can take what we say and go look it up for them. Don't take what I say or Lori or Laurel. Don't take what we say for gospel. That's been the problem with a lot of people with religion and politics, is because they just look for somebody to speak for them. And we need to learn how to be able to for ourselves and educate ourselves. That's how I feel about this. So yeah, we're looking forward to coming back next week. It's going to be a great show. We're basically going to do a current events news blast and take calls. We're going to keep the lines open for the whole show. And hopefully we'll have a great conversation.
Well, it should be good, Jimmy. We're looking forward to it. Man, it's great to hear your voice again. Keep cranking away at it. Jimmy Bell. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir. You're on with us.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead. We got a couple of people, so go ahead one at a time.
This is Joe from Colorado.
Yes, Joe. How you doing?
Doing good. I'll just be real quick. I wanted to share a quick experience. Now, this happened a couple months ago. I was helping an elder. Well, he doesn't serve as an elder anymore because he's very frail. I was helping him out of a car into the ED, emergency department, and his family was there, and his daughter and her husband. Well, her husband is a Kobe in a congregation in Denver, and she used to pioneer. Well, they were talking to me, and I went to visit with them while they were eating in the cafeteria, and they thanked me for helping their dad. But they didn't shun me, and I was really surprised because he actually is not serving as an elder anymore. We used to have a lot of we were both platform overseers in the district. But anyway, he has doubts now because of a situation, and it deals with child molestation. in Denver in one of the congregations, and it was his niece. And the reason they're exiting is because he realized, as an elder, when it didn't affect him, what was different. But now that it affected a family member, he sees the pain. And so we talked, and they're trying to exit out of the Watchtower. And so I just wanted to share that good experience. People are leaving, and I just want to thank you for your show.
Well, Joe, that really... I just want to say to Joe, thank you, Joe, for calling in. That reiterates what I'm saying here. People are leaving. Go ahead, sister.
Hey, this is a first-time caller from California. And I know you were just talking about kind of how there's this revolution going on and everyone's leaving. And I had a couple of thoughts that came to me, and I was wondering if anybody else has ever thought this. So the definition of apostasy is the abandonment of a religious or a political belief. And if you look at, get over here to my Bible, if you look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3, it says, "Let no one seduce you in any manner, because it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness gets revealed, the son of destruction." And basically what I'm thinking is this revolution is people leaving. And be proud to be an apostate, because we are leaving this terrible religion I'm still in. I haven't sent my letter in yet, but yeah, I kind of think that we need to look at apostasy a little bit differently. You think when Jesus was on earth, he was there to cause revolution. What did he say to the scribes and Pharisees? So just think about it in that way and be proud to be an apostate.
Well, thank you, sister. I mean, I am proud to be an apostate, and I think you are too. Well, thank you very much for wanting to come in tonight. Now, don't you be a stranger. We really love to have new ones call in. I thank you very much for calling into the program tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've been listening for a while.
I'm just curious. What got you out?
Oh my goodness. I had been kind of inactive for a few years. I came back during COVID. And I started just hearing things that I had never heard before, like you must obey the governing body, whether it seems practical by a human standpoint. And then just other things kept going. Then I started going through the Australian Royal Commission, just one thing after another. And at first I basically had a nervous breakdown, and now I'm coming out of it, and I'm just getting back on my feet again, and I'm ready to write a letter, but I'm trying to get that organized. But yeah, this organization is terrible, and I'm trying to get my family out. Thank goodness I have one sister who is about a year ahead of me, and she's out, and I'll be the next one. But my mom said the same thing that other person said earlier. Where else would we go? And it's like, it's not a place. It's not a religion.
Yeah.
It's Jesus is the one. So that's all I'll say about that. So no, it's not the religious time.
Well, there you go, sister. Well, thank you very much. Now, don't you be a stranger now. You come on back and see us again, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. Always good to hear from new people. We really, really do like that.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Steve.
Yes, Steve.
It's Steve. Yeah. People talking about, disfellowshipping and people beginning to talk to them. That might be on an individual basis for whatever reasons they feel they've had a change of viewpoint. But overall, disfellowshipping is a very important component of cults. The Witnesses do it. Scientology does it. I believe the Mormons do it. The Amish do it. So it is a strong component that will most likely stay because it helps the cult function. Because if they could talk to people who have left the organization, then they would be having the same conversation that you have every Saturday night, Rick. There would be no limitations in the society, and every other cult cannot allow that. So pretty much shunning is here to stay to a greater or lesser degree. Otherwise, there would be nothing preventing people from having the conversations that we have here on Saturday night. And so I don't see that. Again, individuals maybe, whether it be an elder, publisher, whoever, they might feel different about it. But they're not going to be bragging to the congregation how they talk to their disfellowshipped, apostate friends or relatives. And again, apostasy, that's if you leave the organization and you advocate for another religion or another belief. So that's an individual case. I left the organization. I do not advocate for any other religious organization. So technically, I'm not an apostate, even though I am against the organization. I identify it as a cult. And as far as, some people, when they leave, they say they're going to write a letter. I don't abide by their rules. I don't live in their world. That's a rule or something that the society came up with. Write your letter of disassociation. That's so you can be identified by them. That's for their benefit, not yours. And believe me, all they have to do, they contact you, just tell them you left the organization, ask them questions about why there's so much pedophilia going on, ask them why they hire law firms and attorneys to protect known pedophiles. Believe me, they'll go about their business. They won't contact you again. They may or may not disfellowship. But at that point, again, that's their world. I don't care what they do, whatever title, label they want to put on me. I don't live in that world. They can call me whatever they want because that's what I do to them. So
well, thank you, Steve. Well, thank you, Steve, coming in from Chicago. We always appreciate your comments. You always have some very good comments. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Fran, go ahead.
Oh, really, really quick. The sister that just called in from California, if there's any way that she can contact us, we'd really like to talk with her. You can give her our email or our phone number. That I would really like to talk with her.
Okay, so the sister from California that just called in a couple of, say 5 minutes ago, why don't you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. jwworldnews@gmail.com. And I can put you in touch with Fran and Joe. They'd love to talk to you, sister. Thank you. All right. Well, anyways,
thank you, Rick.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, we've got, boy, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I wanted to bring this up tonight in view of what Dan Clark was just on talking about. And I like what Dan had to say, and I wish I could totally agree with him. But I'm seeing that the Watchtower is wanting to continue along with their shunning practice. Now, Anthony Morris, well, he's the one that was caught buying all the booze up there in New York, right? But he's responding to Norway's denial of financial aid. Oh, let me just bring you up to speed and tell you what's going on. In Norway, the witnesses get money. The Jehovah's Witnesses get money from the government. And they get money because that's how it's set up. A lot of European countries and throughout the world, they give money to the Watchtower for exposing or at least helping people to come to grips with God. That they help people come to grips with God, so they give them money. It's like a church. But what we have here is Anthony Morris coming on, Tony Morris, tight pants and Tony. He's coming on and he's giving a rebuttal on why the Norwegian government is wrong. But the reason why the Norwegian government has cut the funding off over $1 million, it's like, it's close to $1.25 million, perhaps you could say. So the Watchtower is not going to receive that from Norway because there's what they call an exclusion practice, the disfellowshipping, and then the shunning that brings a lot of turmoil against a witness that leaves the organization, that's not involved with the organization anymore because they've been shunned. They've been disfellowshipped. So the Norwegian government says that's not right. That is not right to do this to Jehovah's Witnesses. So Anthony Morris comes on and he wants to talk about, it's not fair what the Norwegian government is doing. So I would like to play that right now for you. So let me just find that right here, right now. Just give us a second. And I want to play that for you so you can actually see Tony Morris giving this talk, which is really outrageous, which is really disgusting to me, that he would even want to come on and try to defend himself for the disfellowshipping and shunning in the Watchtower. So let's just see what we got here. Let's get in here. Let me get you into the program. Let me just share the screen. Let's go to Chrome. All right, let's bring on the clip. I got a clip here I want to play for you. This is Tony Morris, and he is actually. Hold on one second. This is a very recent talk. Tony Morris, after finding out that the Watchtower is not going to receive their $1 million plus from Norway, wanted to come on and give his spin on this. So let's listen into Tony right now. Let me make sure that you guys can hear that. Let me just get this in our stream and make sure it's there. All right, let me just select it right now. Okay. It's not that one. This one right here. So here we go. Let's listen into what Tony has to say about Norway. It's coming up right now. Let's hear what he has to say.
Of Norway decided that Jehovah's Witnesses would no longer receive certain state benefits that are provided to all registered religions. Here to explain more about this is Brother Jørgen Pedersen.
We were shocked when we received a letter from government authorities in Oslo, Norway, threatening to remove our registration as a religious community. Jehovah's Witnesses have been actively preaching the good news in Norway for more than 120 years. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses suffered for their faith under the Nazi occupation of Norway during World War II. Commenting on how Jehovah's Witnesses were the only religious group who stood firm against the Nazis, a previous minister for religion exclaimed, "People throughout the country should know about this. Especially young ones would benefit from this information." We've always been known as good citizens. In fact, a public report stated that Jehovah's Witnesses are careful to obey the laws of the land. Now they've suspended our grants, while there are over 700 religious communities who continue to receive such state benefits. This decision is unconstitutional and an unprecedented attack on religious freedom in Norway. With the assistance of the newly established Freedom of Worship Office, we're pursuing legal remedies. At the same time, we're pursuing dialogue with government officials, and we pray that this situation will be amicably resolved.
Thank you, Brother Pedersen. The authorities in Norway have threatened to remove our legal registration because of our scriptural beliefs and practices regarding disfellowshipping. In the future, various governments will challenge our freedom of worship. They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs, but we're certainly not going to do that.
Well, there you have it. So he's saying that, in Norway, the Jehovah's Witnesses are put on the carpet, so to speak, for shunning people and ostracizing young people and kicking them out of the organization because they don't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses. And then they shun them. But here is Morris is saying right here that they're not going to change their policy on shunning. So this is just a relatively new video just in the last week or so. But that's disgusting to me. That's disgusting. They want to continue this shunning policy. But I know a lot of witnesses aren't buying it. They're not buying it because it's not a good policy. It's hurting so many people, but yet they can't let that go. That's the last stronghold they have on keeping witnesses in the organization.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's, first of all, 3 fast things. That's Whiskey Morris, ain't Tony Morris. And look at Dan Clark. Look at how much time he lost with his family because of shunning. And, his brothers and stuff and his mother and father and everything else won't talk to him, or, I think they've passed on, unfortunately, but they stopped talking to him. Look at all the time he lost. And look, also, last thing, real fast, Morris right here and that other guy are talking about being the witnesses not being funded by funding Watchtower. I'm sorry. Look how bad they talk about the governments. They taught us to hate the government, Rick. So that's my comment.
Well, that's a good comment. Thank you, Jeff. Okay. I mean, we've got.
Can I say something?
Go ahead. Yep.
This is Brad from Australia.
Yes, Brad.
I just wanted to say that it's so classic of Watchtower to be so hypocritical, complaining that they're now being shunned by the government. Yeah, they don't mind shunning everybody else. Yet when it happens to them, it's persecution. Typical hypocrisy from the Watchtower.
Well, Brad, that's a very good comment. You're absolutely right with that. The tide has turned, and now the Norwegian government looks at them, and we're not going to give you any money anymore. And now all of a sudden, we're being discriminated against. Well, what have they been doing for people for years? Thank you, Brad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. Well, good for you.
Hello, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Kurt, how you doing?
Kurt, good? I'm doing good. Pedal to the metal. Yeah.
Oh, a good program. I'll try to make this really quick. On the issue of shunning, they may get new light on shunning. We've talked about new light on the 6 screens forever. So they may change their policy and call it new light. The Adventists use that term new light and more light. I could get into great detail about that, but I won't bore us with all that. The last thing I want to say, I don't know if you've discussed it or not, but I believe in the September 22 Watchtower, you may have already went over this. It looks like they had new light on John 5, 28 and 29 about the resurrection, the resurrection to life and the resurrection to judgment. So I wanted to just run that by you. Like I say, I don't know if you've discussed it or not, but it appears like they have new light on that. Anyway, thank you, Rick, for taking my call.
Yeah, well, I didn't bring that up tonight. I did see that in there, but would you like to just briefly discuss that new light on the resurrection?
Well, I think I understand their change in it, but it might be better for you. You're much better at it than I am to look into it a little bit and maybe talk about it some other time. But again, I looked it over pretty well, and I think I understand their change in it. But I'll just give the ball back to you because you're much better at talking about those things than I would be.
Well,
but thank you for taking my call.
Well, you're welcome, Kurt. But what I did find is, and I'll go into it. We'll bring this up next week. We got a lot of news stories we'll talk about next week as well. We'll talk about
Rick.
Rick. Okay, go ahead. We got. Let's go with the sister first. Yeah.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, sister first. Go ahead, sister. Sister first. Go ahead. Well, I'll go. Okay. Go ahead, Guy. Go ahead. What do you want to say, Guy?
All right. This is similar to Gary Bro's two witness rules thing going on. That thing with Tony Morris and the disfellowshipping and Gary Bro, the helper to service committee. Those are very two similar responses, and this was after Norway forced to close their Bethel branch and merge with Denmark.
All right. Well, Guy, I'm trying to find out, Guy, what so you're tying this into Norway. So what would be the bottom line on this?
But the ban of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia, they can count that as a branch closure, and Norway, the branch closure, and people protesting outside the gates.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well,
people are protesting worldwide.
Yeah, well, they're protesting. You're right with that, Guy. But thank you for coming in. See if someone else has some comments they want to make about that as well. Let's so we can go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Hi, Rick. This is Joe. Really quick, I'd like to just agree with Kurt about what the Tony Morris said. Their speech is very, very careful. Tony didn't say anything about shunning. He only said disfellowshipping. So easy it would be for them to turn around and make it look like, he said, new light on shunning, and blame the members for being overzealous in shunning. They could very easily do something like that, and making them look like the highly moral one. So I almost smell a Watchtower tactic coming up.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Well, I noticed that too. He didn't. He knew darn well that the Norwegian government cut the money off for shunning, but he did not mention the term. Thank you, Joe, for bringing it up. He just mentioned disfellowshipping, but we know that what that leads to. Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Do you know what really offended me about the Anthony Morris is that you have to understand that there's only two organizations here on earth, Satan and Jehovah's. And Satan is not giving Jehovah his money in Norway. And I find it very, very offensive that Satan was giving Jehovah money. You know, even the Jews, when they killed Jesus, did not take back the 30 silver pieces from Judas. So this is, you know, the hypocrisy knows no end with these people, that they will willingly take Satan's money from his organization here on earth. One of his many.
Well, there you go.
That's
I mean,
Watchtower logic.
Well, yeah, that's a lot. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment real quick about the Morris clip. He was talking about their quote-unquote scriptural position on disfellowshipping. There is nothing scriptural about how they go about it. 3 elders against 1 person in private, no witnesses allowed to speak on behalf of the person on trial, and it's entirely in secret. The congregation doesn't get to hear the validity of what's being said, doesn't get to decide for themselves. They're just supposed to trust that the elders made the right call, and that the person who was disfellowshipped is just some evil scumbag. And, you know, as far as shunning, it's an act of coercive control, and it's a form of psychological abuse. Like, it keeps people in line by keeping them afraid. That's why I say it's coercive control. It makes people much less likely to question, which is why so few in the organization do. And it is a form of psychological abuse by cutting off people from all their friends and all their family. So it's not hard to see why, quote unquote, Satan's governments are cracking down on this, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to recognize this as a form of abuse.
Well, very good comment. I mean, exactly. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. I mean, anybody can figure it out for themselves. It's abusiveness of the highest order. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing that's strange is, you know, what makes the elders qualified to deal with pedophiles? You know what I'm saying? You know, they say that, you know, we're going to let them if they're repentant. How the hell do they know? They're not social workers. They're not skilled in this disease that men have. You know what I'm saying? It's strange, you know, that they would allow pedophiles to run around in the congregation. And I know some of them go unreported. Some of them are still elders. And to say that, well, if they're repentant, well, if they do this, these men are not qualified. Most of them only have a high school education. They don't have any degrees in psychotherapy or anything. So you've got a loose cannon. You have got loose cannons that could happen any time in the Kingdom Hall. You know, it's crazy to think about. And, you know, back to your Morris comment, you know, Rick, I might be thinking this. My brother might be coming out. And I just want to tell everybody on the 6th screen, I'm going to be the first to tell you guys, if he comes out, my brother that I've been waiting on for years.
Well, wouldn't that be wonderful, Dan? Wouldn't that be wonderful? That'd make you stand tall, wouldn't it, huh? You'd feel so good.
It warmed my heart, Rick. it warmed my heart today when my brother said, "Hey, Doug said he's going to give you a call." Well, I'm going to call him, and I'm not going to mention anything about anything about apostasy or anything or challenging him. I'm just going to see where his head is, because Rick, he's been in there a long time, like we were. He's been in there a long time, and he's got to see the lies. He's got to see, the way these guys are going. Anyway, that's it, Rick. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Really appreciate you coming on tonight and talking about these things. But anyways, we've got Barbara Anderson. She's going to be coming up here very, very shortly. But I just wanted to talk to you folks for a couple of minutes. I want to thank all of you folks for coming in tonight. All of the people called in, and even the people listening in. We really appreciate all of you and all the people commenting on Facebook and on YouTube and the various platforms we're on. But I want you to know that there are more and more people leaving, and have hope. Have hope that your relatives and friends will be talking to you soon. But Barbara Anderson's coming up next here in just a few minutes. But just to give you an idea, we do have a 6-screen Sunday coming up tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. Well, we have a program. It's called Cult Busters, and that's coming on tomorrow at 12 o'clock. We have Chad coming in from Illinois, and he's going to be talking tomorrow about the Heaven's Gate cult. And I'm sure he'll talk about some of the similarities between that cult and the Watchtower. And then we have, of course, at 1 o'clock, we have the Knowing God program. We have 2 Christian apologists coming in, and they're going to talk about real Christianity. So why don't you join us tomorrow at that time, which would be 1 o'clock. And then 2 o'clock, we have Anne Marie coming back on with us. And she does a program called Jehovah's Witnesses Give Their Christian Testimony. And we have a man coming in, even though he's not a Christian, he's coming in from Washington State. And, we want to know what do people believe when they leave the Watchtower. It sometimes is not total Christianity, but we'd like to hear what they have to say. So that's coming on tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And then 3 o'clock, we have a brand new program. And we have a woman coming in, actually here from Massachusetts, and she'll be doing a program here tomorrow. And it deals with all of the new age religions that are popping up all over the place. And she'll be talking about that tomorrow. And then you don't want to miss the Christian court. Yes, the Christian court. Well, we have questions asked of the court, and they're not salvation points. No one's going to be sent to hell because they got it wrong. But we have a program that's wonderful. It's gaining a lot of traction. That's at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And then at 5 o'clock, we have a program from a former Jehovah's Witness person, ex-witness that was associated with the writing department. His name is JEHOVAH'S. He'll be on tomorrow at 5 o'clock answering your Bible questions. So let's plan on doing that. Come in tomorrow. Don't you be a stranger. Join us tomorrow. Well, we want to thank you all. And, if you like our program and you've been listening in tonight on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, well, why don't you share it? Why don't you like us and subscribe to us? And that'll get the word out more. That'll get the algorithms working on the internet and get more and more people to listen into our program. So why don't you do that? And I always want to say this too. People are still sending money, even though I say don't send any money to the 6 screens. People are still sending money to the 6 screens. Now look I don't want to be a broken record here, but the point is, I came out of the organization. It didn't cost me a penny. I had many people, Randy Waters, Barbara Anderson, Bill Bowen, Silent Lambs. Didn't cost me a penny to learn about how corrupt the Watchtower is. So, I'm willing to do this. It cost me a few bucks to do this, but I don't mind doing it. It makes me feel good that I can help you folks and get you to learn what the Watchtower is all about. So don't send any money here to the 6 screens. If you want to donate some money, give it to a person that can really use it, like maybe a Jehovah's Witness even. So go ahead and do that. But, please don't send money here. Even though people do it, I appreciate it. I'm not saying I don't appreciate what you're doing, but give it to someone that can really, really use it. And I appreciate all you guys coming in tonight. All the people that spoke up here on the 6 screens tonight. We really, really appreciate it. You guys keep standing tall. Don't you ever give up. And don't you ever give in. And keep fighting against the Watchtower. And let everyone know out there that the Watchtower is a cult. And the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We got Barbara Anderson. She's coming up next right here on the 6 screens. So we'll end this program right now. Let me just double check a couple of things. So the program's going to end right now, and Barbara Anderson's up next. Stay with us. Don't leave us. Come back in a couple of minutes. We'll be right back on YouTube. All right.